So I just read on one of my Facebook friends' post a meme that said generational curses do not have to continue through you, and I agree with that statement entirely. Generational curse, for people that have never heard that phrase or whatever, it's something that they've gotten from religion, but the general gist of it means that sometimes there's struggles in families, and that struggle can extend past a particular generation. So as an example, grandmom or granddad might have suffered through some type of issue or trauma, and then their kids, which are your parents, struggle through that same issue and that same trauma, and then they have you, and you find yourself struggling with the same issue and the same trauma. And what that meme is saying is that you do not have to pass that same issue and that same trauma onto your children. And I agree with that. Easier said than done, right? If you come from a long line of addiction, or a long line of physical abuse or molestation or rape or whatever. I mean, I don't know how many times I have talked to somebody who their mom was beat by their father or boyfriend or something, and now they're in a situation where they're getting beat by their boyfriend, and they're wondering, how did I get into this? Why did I not see the signs of it? And so it's something that might be a generational curse. For people who don't like the term curse because it sounds too spiritual or too spooky or religious, just think of nature versus nurture. That's a more scientific way of saying it. But what you see in your environment every day, you don't have to be what you see in your environment every day, right? And how you combat that is by taking the steps. Once you realize that you've been in a trauma, you've been in an abuse, you come from a long line of addicts or alcoholics or womanizers or whores. I say whores loosely, meaning like you sell your body for the money that you need to take care of your family, things of that nature. If you're coming from a long line of something like that, a long line of liars, a long line of people who just shout, they never have conversations, they just yell and scream, and that's normal to you in your home, that's dysfunction. And so you don't have to continue that and pass it on to your kids. And the reason why I'm posting this post is because I've had a lot of time to think through my own issues. I've gone to counseling, multiple times throughout my life. It wasn't because I was having a nervous breakdown or going crazy or anything. It literally was because I recognized there was something in my life that maybe I was continuing on in my attitude or the way that I interact with people, or in my inability or ability to withhold emotion or not be emotional enough when I should be, because I felt numb about stuff. And it's like, it might be important for me to maybe go get some counseling and talk to somebody about this. So it's like doing a little bit of self-work to make sure you're healed, so that when you go into new relationships or you have children, you're not passing on your same trauma and your same history of issues to your children. And so I'm very sensitive at the moment, because I just had a child a year ago, and I have an older daughter who's getting ready to go off to college, that I want them to see the right example of womanhood, right? And I want them to see the right example of how they should be treated as a woman. And if I'm in a situation, or I'm denying that I have issues, or denying that there's some things that are not good in my environment or whatever, and my children or my baby daughter grows up to see that, she may well continue the same type of issues and drama and whatever carried on because of what she sees her mom put up with, or what she sees her mom be okay with or in denial about or whatever. And so what I encourage everybody who's watching this to do, I haven't posted one of these in a long time, I encourage you to do a self-check. If somebody has pointed out to you that you have an issue with X, Y, or Z, whatever that X, Y, or Z is for you, if it's drugs, if it's alcohol, if it's you party too much, if you sleep around too much, if you can't stay in a good relationship because, it's always their fault, it's never your fault, do an inventory and a self-check and say, you know what, maybe I need to take some action to ensure that I'm not continuing the same hurt and pain and disappointment and trauma and abuse or whatever that was happening to me or to my parents or to my grandparents that I happen to know about. For people who are faith people, who you go to church and you pray to God and all that type stuff, yes, God can heal absolutely a trauma to where you can forgive everybody and you don't feel that pain anymore and the sting isn't there. You don't pass it on to your kids. But 99.9% of the time, the scripture holds more true than this magic magical, miraculous thing that's going to happen overnight through God, right? And when I say that scriptures hold true, there's a scripture that says faith without works is dead, meaning I can believe in God and I can believe that he's going to heal me and make everything all good. And he could, possibly do that. And me believing that is a good thing. But the part that is really important to prove that you actually have the faith you say you have is when you put action behind your faith. You say, I believe God is going to heal me of my addiction to ice cream. I do like ice cream. And what I need to do is when I say God is going to make it so that I don't have this food addiction anymore, now I need to change my eating habits. I need to stop shopping at the grocery store and getting every, flavor of Breyers that they have on the market. I need to work out so I can actually lose the weight that I gained from, eating all this ice cream or whatever. And that proves that I believe there's going to be a change. I prayed about it. I asked God to help me. And now I'm starting to align my actions so that the environment around me is the appropriate environment to see change, right? So if you're struggling with something or people have told you, and you're like, I'm not struggling with that. People always going to say what they're going to say. If everybody has told you something, and these are people that love and care about you, and you just deny it, there's something that you need to self-check about. And if you have children, you need to think about your kids. If you have nieces and nephews, you need to think about your nieces and nephews and what they see, and know that you don't have to be what your parents were, your grandparents were, your aunties, your uncles, those that struggled. You can be something greater. You can be something more. And that doesn't make you a better person than them. What it does is it makes you someone who realized that there was a change that needed to take place, and you took the steps to make sure that change happened. And so for those that believe that, God is making you kind of like, I don't want to say like a deliverer in your family, because that sounds so biblical or whatever, but for lack of a better term, making you someone in your family that has a lot of responsibility and ability to kind of move forward the family. The one thing that is like really important is that you recognize that even though your parents or your grandparents or your aunties and uncles or your sisters and brothers may have struggled, God is giving you an opportunity to be that person to step outside of it. Because the moment that you realize something needed to change, you were then empowered with knowledge. And that empowerment of knowledge is kind of like, what are you going to do with that knowledge now? Now that you know that there's issues in the family, that, you come from a long line of infidelity, everybody in your family cheats on one another, no one has been faithful, you recognize it. You come from a long line of addicts or people sleeping around or domestic abuse or whatever the issue is, and you realize it. It is now your opportunity to put an action behind it to ensure that you are not the person that carries it on to your kids and to your spouse and to your family members. And so if you don't take that action step, God bless you. I hope that things work out. But if you are somebody who's like really serious about presenting the right image, not just image just for the sake of, because I care what people think about it, but no, because your children need to see a good role model, then do what I just said. Like, it's wisdom. Seek out some help, seek out some counseling, go to your pastor, whatever, but put some action behind it so that you can start taking the steps, and your children will see that you tried and that you've made a change and that you've done the right things for you so that they can have a better life. And that's it. Thank you.